Good afternoon. It's great to see such a good crowd here today, and we welcome you to our SciTech event. During the last several years, SciTech has been a regular part for SciTech, and during this time, we've had over 70 speakers, and we've served over 3,700 people who have come to our various sessions. The other thing that we do is that the lectures are recorded and available just about any time you want to online. So give that a look if you ever want to. I'm getting old. I think that's all I'm supposed to do. So Nancy, would you get me out of this trouble here?
We are all in this together. What a great crowd. You are in for such a treat. So my name is Nancy Johnston. I serve as the Executive Director for the Piedmont Triad Office of the North Carolina Biotechnology Center, which means to you all, I get to work with really smart people that are doing really amazing things. And I get to work with folks like you all that are going to change the future. So I'm really glad that you're here to learn from Mr. Donnell Mccoy. He has a lot to share, and I'm eager to hear him speak. I did get to spend a few minutes with your lovely wife, Gretchen. And so in addition to this wonderful bio that you have in your folder, which I'd encourage you to read, in pink, I have some little notes that she shared with me, some of which I don't think I should share publicly. But nonetheless, the person that you're about to hear from not only has an extensive corporate career and professional training and know-how, but he's very passionate. I asked what maybe your hobby was and determined that your hobby was right in line with what you choose to do every day now. And that's around all things tech, education, mentoring, helping others, and I've heard a story or two about home automation before anyone ever really knew what that was. So it's very, very exciting. Donald is a good soul. He's a good person. He's somebody that you would want to look to not only for professional advice, but for personal choices and personal advice. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to Mr. Donnell Mccoy. He currently is serving as a STEM education consultant, but he's just really a big kid. He's a lot of fun, so have fun with him. Please come share.
Oh, yeah. We're not supposed to be shaking hands, sorry. So good evening, everyone. Well, good afternoon, I will say. Let's start out with some things. These are some of the outcomes I have for our session today. Top of the list is really audience engagement. I think this is very important. Yes, I have, I think it was 87 charts. It will not be deaf by PowerPoint. I do a lot of referencing, but this is our presentation, so at any time we can alter and go down another path. One of the things that I would like to make sure that we all walk away with is a good understanding of virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. There's a wide variety of technologies that's getting engaged with our senses and helping us bring new opportunities for the workplace, for education, and obviously commerce. And we're going to talk some about the cautions. There are some liabilities that come with these technologies. In today's environment, this is one of your friends. This is a math, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So imagine a classroom setting where you passing these back and forth. Hygiene and things of that nature is very important. And we're going to talk about some of the business and industry enablers and how the trends are taking place in today's environment. And some biotech and some life sciences applications, which I know is dear to your heart. So let's move along. This is from the engagement side. So I'm asking the question, how many of you are in the virtual reality realm right now? How many of you do VR? Got three? Okay. And don't feel bad. I was there some years ago. Not a problem. I know why you're here. You like Russ. The second, and you like Nancy. And you like others. Oh, let's see the main man right here, Ms. Murdoch. So I understand why you're here. Are there any other special expectations that you have out of today's session? If there is something that you want, this is our session. We know it's being recorded, but just raise your hand and get my attention. This is one of these sessions that I give to all of my students. There is no question you can't ask. Literally no question. We have the capability of Googling it, if I don't know it, and we get a pretty quick response. There may be some other reasons you're here, but nonetheless, we're thankful that you are here with us today. Now, I'm going to give you some disclaimers right up front. First one is, as Nancy said, I'm a geek from a little top. I'm taking the toys apart, saying I can make it better. I need to do something else with this. I can make it faster from remote control cars and the like. I've been teaching VR at NC State for the Math Science Education Network since 2018, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. I'm not a gamer. No disrespect to the gamers out there. I'm old, so I miss that. I miss that side. Just being totally honest with you. I don't consider myself an authority in VR or augmented reality or mixed reality. But what I have been able to do, and I think what all good leaders and all good educators do, they engage their students. So I learn more from my students, like every class, somebody's coming back with some tidbit, or I run to them and say, hey, this is not in the manual, but did you know this product would do this? Things like that. That's sharing. That's sharing. So my main focus is about education, STEM education, project-based learning using these tools. Disclaimer. This is my friend. It's called Dramamine.
Does that help? Because I have the exact same problem.
Is there? It's doesn't work as quick as I would like. So here's the fascination. Summer of 2018, I get introduced to VR, and I'm excited. Matter of fact, that night I go out and buy my first set. The next day, I take that one back because I realize that I'm the bot, that I need something with a little more memory. My wife is not in here at the moment. Then I went back. Yeah, boys and their toys. And the reality hit me. When I'm standing up and I'm making these gyrations, I get dizzy. And this vertigo thing starts sitting. I say, ooh, this is not good. And I can sit, and I'm fine. But if I stand up for excessive amount of time, it bothers me. And I'm going to tell you some other cautions and some gotchas along with this that we all need to be aware of. There are some health concerns. So this is my other disclaimer. My last 10 years at IBM was all in workforce management. As a matter of fact, global workforce division was exactly where I was. And so everything I do is around workforce readiness. 8 days into retirement, I was over at NC State. This is a plug for those who may be thinking about retirement. And the benefits of volunteering. People know your name, they put you on the radar, and it's almost like indelible ink. They call. So 8 days into retirement, I was over at NC State teaching a class on Lego robotics. And they haven't stopped. As a matter of fact, I'll never forget the first contact with it was a grant, it was an NSF grant. And the lady said, well, what do you charge? This is volunteer, we don't charge. She said, no, it's a grant. I got to pay you. Well, I had no expenses. It's me. You want to say expenses, it's from the gas in my car from Durham to get over to the NC State campus. That's a whole nother topic we could discuss one day. My message to those of you who are preparing to retire one day, you will be surprised how many opportunities there are out there. And you're not even looking, by the way. And these are things that you will do for free because you really enjoy. It's part of your life. So you have to adapt, and you have to adapt fast. So what I quickly did is became a LLC, a limited liability company. And so now I'm here. Oh, by the way, you need a title. People were telling me, oh, you need to have an office front. You need to have website. And whoa, no, I'm retired. 2 rules. Remember that you're retired. The second one, don't forget the first one, that you're retired. Seriously. Because I am what they would say in some meetings. My name is Donnell. I'm a workaholic. I don't know boundaries. If my wife didn't put constraints, I would do it 24/7. And I also tell the students, this side, is that when you find something that you really enjoy, you'll never have to work a day in your life. January was 10 years in retirement from IBM. I'm a geek, so I have a database that tracks everything. So that was 2,632 STEM-related events in that time. I don't even want to tell you some of the monies where you were not looking at money. It's just a whole nother thing. I'll leave that alone. Yes, I'll leave it alone. So, workforce readiness. Let's make sure that everything we do, that we're preparing to give back and to help those who have an opportunity to grow, such as yourself, from a community college perspective. Because I am, as you saw, I am a community college grad, and I'll make this quick. And all my geekiness from the K-12, where you see there in the center, and all my hobbies, I didn't see a place for algebra. I didn't see a place for foreign language, the Spanish and the French. I didn't see a need for all of those college readiness things. So all of a sudden I found myself graduating, and my mother saying, what are you going to do now? Because you're not going to stay around here and play with your little band and play with your little electronics. So bless her soul, Miss Helen Muldrow, she passed 2 weeks ago at 101 years old, 20 days shy of 102. Mrs. Muldrow, the mother of the guitar player in the band, pulled me aside and says, my son and the other players are going to college. What are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't know. Mom is giving me an exit package, basically. And very stern, if she had been talking about that, I never heard it. And that being, what are you going to do after college? My parents were very supportive, but they didn't have college education, so it was just not part of their vernacular. So to make a long story short, Mrs. Muldrow and her husband says, well, you could go to a community college. You like playing with this techie stuff. So I got a 2-year degree, and that 2 years went by like that. And suddenly, my professor said, you guys need to go on and get some more education. So I went to Old Dominion University and continued with 2 years. And now this is the side that I have done that many of the students here won't do. And this is not wrong, this is not right, but it's just a different environment. I've only worked for one company. One. Today, you know the statistics. It's phenomenal how many times people will change. But you will see from Chicago to Indiana to England for a couple of years, Rochester, Minnesota to Raleigh. And those are major locations I work. It's IBM. I've been moved. We were talking about that earlier. We move around a lot. Many different jobs. Now, message to you in terms of a workforce readiness. Be prepared to be flexible and adaptable. Yes, my background was about engineering or the electronic side, but it was more about problem solving. It was more about collaboration. It was more about how do you take yourself out of a space where you don't feel comfortable and force yourself to be comfortable and to be productive in that space. That gets you success, okay? So let's move along. Spent way too long. So here's the key. These charts here is to tell you how I got into VR. So, what's this part? Okay, this is what we call remedial attention. Sorry about that. Thank you. So, this is how I got into VR. As I mentioned, 8 days into retirement, I was over at NC State. That was in what they call the Science House, which is one of the K-12 programs that they have there. That opportunity led me over to the College of Education, where there's a program called the Math Science Education Network. So they have programs that does STEM enrichment. So on the weekends, on Saturdays, they have what they call a Saturday Academy program. And during the summer, we have what we call a Summer Scholars program. So I've been teaching engineering for that program since I retired. Now, the interesting thing was, back in my IBM days, I was a volunteer for that program. And this is where I'm talking to people that are thinking about retirement one day. Many of the things you do as a volunteer will later turn into opportunities that you can do real stuff for. So this program currently has a program on the campus of Elizabeth City State, Winston-Salem State right here, and North Carolina State. And so I teach engineering-related programs, basic electronics, basic engineering, virtual reality and coding, robotics, anything that's technical in nature. And primarily, I have the high school students. And there's a colleague that has the middle school, but we'll cross-pollinate between the two. So this program is where I teach virtual reality. I've been doing it since 2018. So this is my guru. This is Dr. Derek Ham. I have never met someone with more credentials than this gentleman. As you can see, he had his PhD from MIT. He got his master's in architectural from Harvard, and he's a graduate of a historically black college, Hampton Institute, well, Hampton University now. He is the most humble individual I've ever met in my life. If I had those credentials, I think it would be difficult for me to get through that door. So he has a brainchild. He does a lot of outreach. One of his desires was to take his teaching methodology to the K-12 environment. And since he was connected with the university at A&T, I also teach at A&T. So I have an NC State tie that I say I can't wear here in the Triad area just in case my A&T colleagues see me. So I didn't wear that. That's a side joke. I'm back. So the Friday Institute, where the College of Education is, and the College of Design, he wanted to collaborate, Dr. Ham wanted to collaborate the two together. So he contacted my boss, Mr. Braska Williams, and Braska said, yes, let's make it happen. He called me into the room, and we started collaborating on how we would teach a VR class for middle and high school students. Now, Dr. Ham, he's really good. So he's got all kinds of awards, but one of the most successful projects that he's doing now, and they just had a debut of it, they are taking scripts from Dr. Martin Luther King that were never recorded audio-wise, was never recorded video-wise. And they're taking Dr. King's avatar, really looks very realistic, mouth movements. They have a narrator that's reading the script from all these speeches that have never been recorded. And they had a debut here on the 15th. It was phenomenal. In the Raleigh side, I'm not sure if they made the news here, but on the Raleigh side it was a lot. And this one, I Am a Man, is one that's been getting wave reviews. It's based on the civil rights movement. So let me move along. That's just to talk about his credentials. So we were his understudies for this. Now this is sort of a plug, but I don't know about the universities in this area or even the college here. But NC State, they have virtual reality and augmented reality facilities. So you can just go, and I think, I need to validate this, but I think it's true that you can just go. You can sign up. You don't have to be a student because it's open to the public, maybe because it's a public institution. And because there were other people in the classes, you just sign up and go. So you can see, I just pulled this off the website last night. There's a class here on the 6th, the 15th, and there was a whole list of classes. And so these are a couple of the guys that work with Dr. Ham and that center. But these are all the spaces. These are all the virtual reality workshop locations, I should say workshops. Workshops are conducted there, but they're more facilities that you can go in and use these various equipment. And you can just check them out. And some that you use on site. It is phenomenal the amount of resources they have in place to do that. So this is Dr. Ham's model. He calls it to play, learn, and design. And so his thing is get people into that environment, just let them play. And while they are playing and they run into challenges, then help them understand how to overcome the challenges, and then teach them design concepts right into it. And the two products that he introduced us to was the Oculus Go, and that's the set here. And this is a standalone set, so you don't need to be tethered, as opposed to the Oculus Rift, which has to be attached to a computer. And then Play Canvas, which is a gaming engine where you design your virtual environments and gaming tools. So this is an overview about Play Canvas. It's free. So, and this is something we wanted to do in this educational model. Offer students something that they could do at home. These are middle and high school students. And technically speaking, anybody can just go out and create an account. And it uses Java. And what I did, just for the fun of it here, in case there were any programmers in here, this is an actual JavaScript that moves items around in a gaming environment or a virtual environment. So once you create this entity on your system, now you can download it and put it inside your VR. When you download, you get a URL, and you can just give that URL to anybody, and they can look at it either through VR or on the screen with a standard browser. And I just threw in a diagram here that's associated with that movement code that you saw a moment ago. It just moves these items around. So in a gaming environment, you may say that I want my joystick to control this, or I want to control them with keyboard strokes or different keyboard keys. You just define how you want it. Very simple, very structured. It can get complex quick, but the introductory side is good. Plus, who's your friend in learning a lot of this? YouTube. There are a lot of, I just call them hackers, geeks, or whatever, showing you how to do different things. You just pick it up and you go. And that's, besides Dr. Ham and YouTube and other students, that's how I become very familiar with the technologies. The Oculus Go, very popular. Now, this is actually by Facebook. This is a Zuckerberg product. So people can conduct their Facebook friends and socialization through here. You can do YouTube things through it. You can do a whole bunch of stuff. But this is basically it. And I just giving you some details. So this product was introduced the summer that we did our first camp. Dr. Ham wanted to obviously be on leading edge, so he was using or having us to learn a product that was just being released in May of 2018. And I've given you some of the specs. Because earlier I told you that I bought this one, then I took it back because I wanted one with more memory. They do a 32 gig and a 62 gig memory, well, nano flash memory, or NAND. So that's really it. So more memory, you can do more things. And so you'll learn very fast, bypass 32 and go ahead and get your 64 and you'll be perfect. Then the next thing was, here, I'm trying to do movement. You'll see in the rectangle here, I think I can bring that up. Here in the center, this one here allows me for 3 degrees of axis. So I got my roll, my yaw, and my pitch. But then this one gives me 6 degrees of freedom, but it's more complex, right? What you don't see here, and I didn't bring it here, is the gaming computer that's set up. I'm actually using a laptop. I'm using a Dell. However, the laptop has to be VR ready because it needs more memory, it needs more graphics, the speed, performance have to be there, the cache memory, all those type of things have to be there. It's wonderful. So this is the way I teach my class. Because although we learn from Dr. Ham, he teaches at a collegiate level. We had to scale it back for middle and high school students. And for mine, because sometimes the classes are actually blended. I have both middle and high school in the same one. So, and I want the students to always understand the fundamentals of learning and what STEM education is all about. And also STEAM from this side, including the arts, of course. So we always start with a foundation of the scientific method. No matter what they're going to do, we try to get them to understand, even while you're doing this virtual reality and the gaming, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of physics. There's a lot of velocity-driven things that you have to make sure you understand that sound to the environment of a physical, real-world entity. So we start with the scientific method to make sure they understand the engineering design process, and I'll show you how I step them into this. This is like the 5 stages I do for the class outcomes. So when they first come, stage 1, we have to give them a big safety thing, because these are middle and high school students. So a lot of things they, hygiene-wise and things of that nature, they're a whole nother subject. So you want to make sure that they're conducting themselves and they're not passing stuff between one another. So once we go through all the basics, orientation, keywords, and things like that, and I'm going to take you guys through some of that today. Then we take them through stage 2, understanding the graphics, how the Play Canvas software operate. YouTube has tons of tutorials that different people have done, and Play Canvas themselves, the company, has some too, because it's a UK company. Then we get them down in block 3 or row 3, getting them to understand a design from a storyline. What is your game or your entity trying to create? And then we get them to work through that, and I'll show you a little bit how I do that. And then we just cycle, activities until they can really get it down fine. And then we do a final VR world experience. And I do it in the form of a TED Talk. So the kids got to come up like here and they demonstrate, and because you can share your URL, so everybody out there has that URL, so everybody's watching through VR. And this is the way I introduce all of the elements to them when we're trying to get them to understand how it all works. Some of you may be familiar with mind mapping. I came across that some years ago. It was a very clever way of making sure you drill down deep into something. So I teach them that from a Dr. Ham perspective, graphics design laid on top of the engineering design process, on top of the scientific method, that now you have to understand what is going to be your motivation behind your project from a project-based learning perspective. So you got to think about color, you got to think about shapes, you got to think about lighting and shadows, because all of these elements you can control in your gaming engine, in this case, Play Canvas. And I'll tell you about some other ones. You got to understand movement, how these attributes are going to interface. So if I want my virtual environment to be able to go over and touch this, I got to make it seem realistic. What type of texture is this going to be? Is it going to be a smooth surface, or is it going to be something that is a bit rough, such as this plastic? Making sure they understand all that. Form and unity and harmony, all of these things. Data values, because now if I'm going to have my entity, I'll do this cautiously, if I'm going to have it jump, I got to have it jump real. And if I'm going to have it jump from here to here, I got to make sure that I have a rigid body for this floor. Otherwise, my entity will go straight on through the floor. So this is things that they can understand. But it's sort of funny when the students say, well, we told it to move over here, but we can't see it. Well, gravity took place and it went through the ceiling. And so it's like, no, this is the real world. All of these attributes emulate a real world experience. And then giving them the big one for me is the user experience and feedback. So these are actually some of the class, some of the students in the class. Everybody sits around in these little goggles looking like, well, they just look different. So, and it gets challenging because some people have big hair. It's 4:30. I'm gonna let you be my timekeeper now. So and have it go to a monitor so that other people can see what we're experiencing. So let's talk about some terminology. Now, in '84, these professors tried to normalize and bring some synergy, if you will, to the world of virtual versus augmented reality and what's in between in terms of a mixed environment. So here we go. This is the diagram that they came up with. As you can probably see here, they're saying this is our real environment, this is a virtual environment, and they will meet in between. My students couldn't quite get that. So I tried to put it together this way. I told them that this upper tier, this is your real environment, this darkened area. As this area continues to decrease and your computer generated area increase, that would be where your areas meet. And let me show you how I explain it to them. This is totally the physical environment, so you can see it's greater. On this side, that's totally computer generated. So this is a digital environment. It could be video, it could be image, it could be audio, but totally computer generated. And then you have this mixed area right in between that brings it all together. And in order to be augmented versus mixed is how you engage in that. And I'll show you some examples. So this is the first way that I could get the students to really understand. When we're talking about virtual reality, and I'm looking into these goggles, I am totally immersed. That's all. I can't see here, can't see there, can't see up. And here lies a problem with students, right? So they're getting all excited about what they may be seeing here and not realize that there's a step here, or they could be hitting someone or hitting the wall. So physical constraints, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So this is the key. So when you do put in perspective, what is a virtual reality? Totally immersed, but totally digitally generated. There's nothing real about that, nothing real. So here's a couple examples. So the young lady here, she's immersed in her VR environment. On the screens, you see what she's actually seeing inside. So as you can see, everything is totally digital, totally digital. Now, this one is augmented reality. You can see that she has this product here is a Microsoft product, Halo, and she's carrying on a conversation with someone similar to a video conference, but she's mainly just overlaying where she is to see where the person is in the screen. So a digital representation augmented over the computerized one. I'll give you a couple more to try to put it in perspective. Like here, this, and actually I brought one. I'm not gonna, we'll see how it goes. So like I have an iPad here. This person is using an iPhone. It could be a tablet of some type. But as they're looking down the hall of this manufacturing area, they're getting details fed back into them. So they're looking at the real environment, but the overlay is the augmented reality of digital information that they are putting in there. In this case, you see statistics and data, including distance, as you can see there. I'll give you a couple more. This one is a training one, where this person here is actually putting their tablet over an electrical panel, and the panel is telling them what they need to do. The instructions are there. And it can be audio fed as well as digital fed. But you actually see the image in the background. The next one is, this is the one for educational one. I really like this one. So you can actually look at a globe, but it will highlight different areas and it will actually speak back to you. There are tons of apps out there that would do this. Here's another one real quick. This one here is close to your area. So from a perspective of using the goggles, getting detailed information about some sample that you're looking at, and getting details that someone has already pre-programmed behind it to collect data. Same here in a lab environment, all in an augmented environment. So you're adding something on top of something that's real. And the same here for actually looking into the skeletal system. And now interacting with it. Now, mixed reality is taking those that original generated content that's computer generated, now using real environment, so you got it augmented, but now you're blending the two so that you can interact with it. So now you can touch and make things happen. So it's a different level of complexity in terms of programming. So now, and I was amazed at how many virtual labs out there that people are actually using today, especially working with Microsoft and Google. And I have a couple. This one here is comes out of the Cleveland Clinic, and they're using the Microsoft HoloLens as well. So you see the different stages. So this person here, at least this rendition, is showing the person in their flesh, but now looking at the muscular, looking at like a circulatory system, and then a skeletal system. So you're able to actually look at that person and look beneath them. And the same here, looking at that. There's a ton of things like that, these various apps. Now, interesting enough, they don't sell this to the public. You can only buy this on an enterprise or a commercial basis. at least at the moment. But there are some ones. I'm going to skip this one. There's a bunch of terminology. If some words come up that you don't know, let me know. I'm going to make this quick. So this should bring back some memories to some of you that VR didn't just start with the internet stage, internet boom, if you will. How many of you actually had a ViewMaster? I had one, yes. I actually want to find one. I've been looking and what's the name of that place? Oh God, what's the name? Oh my goodness. Oh, I didn't think about eBay. Oh yeah. The Goodwill places. I'm amazed at how many things I find there. So that's where I'm trying to find one. But 1939, right? This is, and obviously you had some people back in the 1800s that were doing some things too. But this was considered a virtual one because that's not real. That's digital content. It was image. Technically speaking, a negative. Then by the 90s, obviously NASA beginning to lead in these technologies, and Oculus. That's when they really began to increase. Now by 2014 or 2014, now you had some of these devices, right? I bought this at Walmart for $5. They actually had them for $3. You know, you insert your phone here, and you got experience for kids. You don't have all the health issues that you can have with the other one because the frame rate, that was some of the terminology I didn't cover a moment ago, is not as high, so you don't have to worry about a lot of that dizziness and things. But let me move along. So you begin to get into a lot of these smartphone-based systems. But this is the one that's really going to take us to a whole nother level, because these are the ones that really allow you to be immersed. So the programming for training and overlaying real images on top of that. But these are the ones they're not selling right now to industry. At least I imagine there's some, they're not selling to commercial people. But this is, well, you know, there's somebody got some, there's not a business. You need a system to drive these things. So you got the desktops, and this is the big in the gaming industry. And I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about some of the stats. And this is the Oculus Rift. It was just it was $400. So, and then now they have another one I'll show you here. This is the Go, which is standalone. The Rift here, that you're tethered, you got to be attached. And then the Quest have taken the features of the tethered and put more computing power into it. So it's a nice system, but it's not selling the way they want to. And Mr. Zuckerberg is not happy. So, because they got a lot of competitors out there, and I'll show you a few of them. I had told Russ early on, it would be sort of complicated to set up an environment so that you could use. And now with the corona, we really wouldn't want to do that. Whole nother subject. But these are sensors that tell you where you are, that you have to calibrate. So your system don't know where your virtual world starts and ends. So these sensors are placed for tracking capability. So I can, when I go through the calibration, I can say, okay, my virtual world is here. Oh, it actually takes us back to Columbus, right? I'm gonna fall off the end of the world, because literally you would be, because it's outside of my environment. And the system just says, you're not there. Where are you? Until you come back into range. And like the Hive, this is another brand. They can mount these, and you can actually mount these in the ceiling too. So some of the people that's serious, they just have their whole facility set up. That's the way it is in NC State. When you saw that list of various locations, they already set up, so you can just walk in there and play. Like these are set up to do desk type. Various types of controllers, including obviously hand, but then some, like the Microsoft product, is eye tracking as well. So it's monitoring that. Obviously from that gaming side, Sony wasn't gonna be left out, so they had a big presence. Now, earlier when we were showing you the augmented reality, there's a lot of 360-degree cameras or 360-degree cameras. So technically speaking, I could come in here, scan this room, and you guys could be there or not. And now when I import that into my system, you will either be part of it or not. Any equipment that I want to emphasize, any type of programming that I want to engage, so I can say, well, when I'm at this point here, make that appear, or make it disappear when I'm not there, almost like hiding commands on a system. Beautiful stuff, beautiful. And this is the stereoscopic side that you see in the background. Let me move along. The computers that you need for this, they need a lot of system power to really do some really, really nice stuff. Gaming engines. What I want to do is give you a quick perspective. And when I say gaming engines, so technically speaking, this is the programming application that drives the system. I just put the ones here in red. These are some of the big ones, Unity and Unreal Engine. So when you hear gamers doing a lot of programming, those are some of the main ones. And Play Canvas, they don't really, I made them fit. They don't even register because this is low end, very functional, but it wouldn't be there. But then the thing we need to understand, what type of programming languages. So like Unity is C#, Unreal C++, Play Canvas is Java, just like JMonkey. So you have to be able to program in some of those environments. But don't worry about that because there's a lot of examples to get you going. So let me move along. As I was mentioning, these are key. And they're cheap. We just buy them as, we buy them in bunches of 100, or you can even get 1,000 per. Ooh, it'd be interesting if they're hard to find these days because it's nice material. You caught that. That's good. How do you adjust these things? Because as I mentioned earlier, you got people with small hair, people with big hair. You got to be able to do that. So they have a nice, people with glasses, it's all taken care of. So you actually adjust. They have adjustments, I'll use the one here, adjustments under the bottom to adjust to make sure that you are getting a good sight. And they have adapters in there for glasses. And some, you don't need it because they have the optics already tied to do that. Sound, they all got headset, very nice sound because that spatial sound actually means a lot. Because when you're programming in Play Canvas, say in my virtual world, I can say, well, my entity is over here, so my voice should be projecting here. But now when you come over here, the spatial audio changes. Or from back here, it changes. It changes. So it is really cool how you actually get to control that and to make it very realistic. Controllers, actually, sometimes they're tricky to put on. You say, well, which one is left, which one is right? Then you got controls here. You got ones inside. So when these gamers are really doing their thing, they really get in. It's almost like, well, you've seen them when they're boxing or they're controlling different things. But from a programmer perspective, you get to say which keys you want to do what. What functions do you want to do? It's beautiful. Let me move along because time is really going. So these are some more controllers. So what I wanted to do, because it wasn't easy to set up to the network, when you're inside one of these environments, this is what one looks like. So you can go to Hulu, you can go to a wide variety, you can do television, concerts. I had friends that for the NBA finals, they were watching it here because now you're getting feeds from those entities. Money, commerce, let's move along. Obviously, Netflix and YouTube you can access. So let's get through some dangers. I actually have a sheet that I have people sign when I'm doing something, unless it's NC State that's got bigger, deep pockets. Because seizures, they may say 1 in 4,000. This is the actual documentation that's been very, very, very fine print that I blew up for you. I may be that 3,099. 100 person. Anyway, make a long story short, trying to be funny, didn't make it. So that's serious. I would hate to have a situation with someone having an episode. Same for children. We working with middle, but if they're not 13, they ain't gonna make it. And then all the other safety things. So let me move along. This dizziness, that's what happens to me. Ooh, gets me bad. And collision, I mentioned that a moment ago. This yellow line, so that's the boundary that has been set up for that game. So that person knows if they step outside, then they're out. Tripping, that's where you make sure you got cables, especially for these cables, because now you're tied to the system, but you're trying to interact. So you think about things like that. That's why I try to get my students to understand. You got to think about that when you're designing your program. the controllers. People drop them. That's why they have these little, locking mechanisms here. Sometimes the students don't want to use it, but then they're swinging and it goes flying. And say, see, we told you. It's life. So let me move along. So let's talk about some trends. Lots of money, whole bunch of billions. So this chart, and I got a couple of them to just sort of put it in perspective for you. Because here you're looking at about 130-ish billion through next year. Let me give you another perspective. Oh, and by the way, I'll just show you, talk to you a little bit about it. The greater line here is where the growth is. These are the mobile devices. So this tethered thing, obviously, that's where we got rid of the landline at home. And I shouldn't say landline. You remember that coil that we couldn't go any further than that wall? That's you remember? I remember that. Some of us remember, yeah. And we tried to put an extension to that always messed up, and then the coil never went back. Anyway, augmented, about 120 billion, and this is the breakdown in terms of hardware. You can see e-commerce, data-driven, voice, film, because a lot of people. I mean, we don't have to go back very far to see how popular the movie Avatar was, right? Mega dollars. So you know what they're going to follow up with is going to knock our socks off. These are some of the major players. Now, this is in a quadrant. So you see immersive VR and mixed VR. Then in the lower quadrant here, virtual reality and then augmented reality. These are some of the players in that area. Now, I put one up here to make sure that you understand when you are dealing with these type of products, $5 or $3, you're down in this quadrant. So they enhance their software to make shadows be more shadowy or increase the resolution through digital methods. How do you increase the resolution when it's not there? So there are tricks that they use for increasing the line rates. Ford is telling us they're saving $8 million just because of training, because you can do it here and you don't have to hire somebody and you don't need a big facility to do it. You ain't got to worry about safety. You don't have to worry about a lot of those things. Events, reality. It's amazing how many people just get together now and they're all sitting around the room with their little VRs and they all getting their immersed experience on. Obviously shopping, classroom environment, and obviously, dating. They're taking it to another level. Now, so these are some charts real fast that is focused on how they're using it, especially for training environments, right? So you ain't got to worry about hazards and things of that nature. I'll move quick to this because time is moving. But the healthcare, that was one of the areas I wanted to focus on with you guys. So for people that's dealing with anxieties and things like that, they have been successes. So people are using them to handle phobias and the like. For business, collaboration. So where we traditionally do a Skype call, so now you go into a VR mode, now you can input more data associated with that. Visualizing big data, being able to optimize that data is real. And this one gets a little tricky because the marketing community and advertisement are able to take advantage of things like that, but then, they want to save money on print costs and things like that, but everybody's got to have the technology. So that's sort of a catch-22, but they're saying that will have an impact. HR, right now we can conduct meetings, interviews over phone or Skype and other technologies, but VR is one that they're actually doing now. Let's move along. So I'm closing with these. So Arizona State introduced their first biology class using totally VR. It's pretty cool. In a partnership with Google. You can read about it. Matter of fact, I'll give you all the charts. So you got them. So they're yours if you want the charts. A lot of healthcare stuff out there. It was just phenomenal, all the different pockets people were using for virtual labs and the like to save monies. And especially this company here, Labster. I don't know if anyone is using that here, but it was phenomenal, all of the simulations that he could do and various experiments. And their big selling point was, well, you didn't have any cleanup. So I say, wow, that makes sense. And they show examples of things exploding because someone put together something wrong, but it was there. Crime scene stuff. So, thank you. Any questions? Where are we on time? I was moving. We good? Okay, good. Yes, ma'am.
Through Dr. Wesley, we were able to get 10 VR headsets.
Oh, good.
And we have a classroom or a lab, and we bring high schoolers and middle schoolers in.
Yeah.
But our equipment's Lenovo.
Yes. I have a friend. He has Lenovo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. I mean, no, okay. Politics, I'm still learning.
So you know the challenges
I
that
do
are
know that
facing
challenge
with
because they don't fall in any of that.
Right.
And I try to tell my friend.
Right.
Sorry. But you can still do some good things. Yes.
What I'm struggling with is the content of some of the journeys. It's very dry for the students.
Yeah.
I need, outlets where I can go and find better journeys for these students.
Yeah. So, step one is there's a location, let me tell you here. It'd probably be faster to go here. It's called VR Stream. If you haven't been there, let's see. Just come on down. So this site has a lot of content that you can download. And the other side is I would challenge my students to begin to make their own content. Because unfortunately, you're outside of that bell-shaped curve of, Lenovo is great products, but it's just not in the one where they're investing a lot of money and things like that. But programs like Play Canvas, you can do your design, you can input your content, and it's pretty easy to use for the basics, and then just download to everybody. But here, it's Stream VR, so they got a lot of content there. And there are some other ones that's out there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good product though, but just not in a bell shape. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what was just stated. I'm Dr. Boko, and the North Carolina STEM Alliance has partnered with the SOC Lab, which is for cybersecurity. I don't remember all the acronym, sorry. But we are having 20 students to be able to participate in a VR experience on, let me make sure I have the right date, March 23rd at 11:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. Right in the tech building. My email address is on this green sheet here. Email me if you'd like to participate. We're going to visit 1 or 2 countries. Okay?
Wow. Thank you. So I didn't go into it. There was a whole host of stuff that I left out. So like Google Earth, they have tons of environments, and even including YouTube that you can download and immerse inside your environment.
Any more questions? Gus, you've always got a question.
Uh-oh.
Related towards what you mentioned about how you react when you are using VR.
Yes.
So do you think that is that a side effect of the technology, or is that individually related? Is it age related? Or not necessarily that? Is there any other really bad side effects that we need to consider before getting into playing, doing virtual reality?
Talk to your lawyer. I'll get some disclaimers in place, because interesting enough, at NC State, people don't know it. When you sign that little sheet and that little fine print down there, you accept all risks when you're doing that. The other side is, I think it is age. And my system is changing now, right? Things that I used to just do this and no problem. Now I say, whoa, what did you just do? I'm 63. So, things a little change. I've also heard the inner ear thing is playing with that vertigo thing, and probably, I'm going way out there a little bit here, but if you have sinus issues and you have some other things like that, Now, I ain't on that physiology thing, but it has to have an impact to it.
Donald,
Yes.
he's a medical doctor.
Oh, he the man. Thank you. I'm glad I kept it simple. But the lawyer, he's my friend. Sorry.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
So we, our foundation has to buy equipment, and in our health tech areas, we are always, trying to keep ahead of the curve a little bit. But one of the coolest things, and I didn't understand it was augmented reality, we can buy a simulator using augmented reality that shows how to apply radiation in radiation therapy. You can't bring that into the classroom lab, but we can do it through this augmented reality, and it is so precise and so realistic, and it's actually controlled with the actual controller that would be used in the medical environment. So it is the next best thing, and it's all because you can put on these glasses and see the equipment move, the table move, the patient move, and it's just it just kind of struck me that that's where we're leveraging these technologies in a way that saves us money and lets us afford to try to stay on the kind of the state of practice in the healthcare area.
I'm with you totally, and I'm gonna try to do this real quick if I can. So, Apple and these iPads, they have some of those built in. Obviously, there are tons of apps that you can download, and when I'm working with some students, I will actually let me pull up one real quick. So, like, should be able to see there. So like right now, let me calibrate the screen. So like right now it's looking, okay, let me pull back. Continue to move, okay. So like this one is a measuring app. Let me see if I can get it, my cable is a little, and earlier, let's see, this is what you call risk management, because it was, let me try again here. It was not. I got you. Yeah, we saw it earlier. So what I'm trying to do now, there we go. I just saw, you got to find the point. There it is. Add point. I'll give myself 10 seconds more. I can't do it. But this actually, I can measure. Let me try again. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. So I'm measuring here. I'm measuring the distance between that chair. 21. I don't know if you can see that. Right there. Or I can take that and go back to where he is. And this comes part of the standard download now with the iPad. And I'll show you another one real quick. This one here does mathematics. Let's see. So I can pull up equations. Let me pull a 3D function here. And I can actually measure and can even do functions of quadratic equations and the like. This one here is not. Anyway, I won't take a lot of time. Oh, the one I was asking the gentleman earlier, it was I didn't have Wi-Fi access in here, but IKEA, I have that app here. So I can go to the IKEA app, look at my room, and say I want to put that chair. So you call it out of the inventory, put it there, and it physically does the measuring for that location. And that's just IKEA. So a lot of people already have that. It is amazing, all the apps out there. Just Google that. You'll be surprised.
One of the questions that I have is, from a design perspective, why is the Oculus so bulky looking? It would seem like it would be, more what I'm gonna call glass fitting kind of. So anyway, that's just one of the design things that.
It is, as a matter of fact, and I think, and you'll see when we were looking at the Microsoft one, it is smaller. And I didn't show you some of the products that's actually the Google Glass, just a little goggle piece, look like a cyborg or something. The price point goes up. Here, they said, okay, I'm not gonna worry about the real estate as much. Let them deal with the bulkiness. I got to get my optics here and my sound, and they just didn't focus on that as much because of cost.
Well, a lot of people, including myself, purchase for what you call a cool look.
Oh yeah. Oh, cool look. Yes. Cool look. Sorry, make sure you get that cool look. I'm teasing. No, I'm messing. But he's right. Because if you're going to be walking around like that all day, you got to look good.
Last question?
Yep.
Last question. I thought the part about the training,
Yes.
really hit home, and it's really interesting. And just to imagine, you know what's going on now, but as Bill said, those examples, we've exchanged examples in here where we've seen literally dissection tables,
Yes.
which will eventually be virtual. So on behalf of the college and the foundation and the North Carolina Biotechnology Center and Cook Medical, I want to thank you very much for coming, Donnell. It was an excellent lecture.
Oh,
This
thank
is
you.
a virtual gift card.
Oh, man. Right in my heart. Right in my heart.
This is a real certificate.
Oh, okay. Thank you. It was a pleasure. And please let us know, for those for your Lenovo, there are some things out there. And let me know, and I can do some fine tuning for you in some cases. And I'll close with this. There are a lot of companies out there trying to make their mark. And Lenovo has a wide history. I mean, all the things they acquired from IBM doing the transition and things in that area. And there are some sharp engineers out there just doing that. So we'd be more than happy to work with you. Thank you. Thank you, Ross. Oh, bless your heart. Oh, bless you. She appreciate it. Thank you, man. Oh.